We are activating your unique self-discovery one show at a time. The Orchard of Wisdom Self-Discovery podcast at your fingertips, just waiting to inspire and invite you in discovering just how awesome you really are and how to navigate through life in joy, enrichment, personal abundance, in mind, body, spirit, heart, and soul. All the people we bring you are here to serve you on your journey of life. Do enjoy our next show. So you have a husband who is sick and you have 8 children. What was it that started you on this journey of writing, and why did you have to write at that particular time?
Well, my husband, John, was a teacher. I was a teacher, and we had come out to rural Illinois for the sole purpose of hoping to raise a family together. We both came from the city, and we both shared the same faith as Catholics, but we both knew that our faith needed to grow. We needed to understand it better, and that God was bigger than both of us could possibly understand. So one of the things I started to do when we had children, we started being blessed with kids, was we would read stories to them. And one of the ones that both John and I loved was Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit. And
I love them too.
what I started to do was pull out from the stories things that had a great meaning to us, the vices and virtues, the heroes, the villains, the challenges and the overcoming the challenges. And we wanted to look at what I wanted to look at with the kids, with my husband. How do we walk this human journey with all of the challenges that come into life? It is very ironic that I started that because it was during that period of time that my husband came down with leukemia. And he had a 4-year battle with that. But I did end up publishing the book, The Road Goes Ever On, A Christian Journey Through the Lord of the Rings, because of his encouragement, because of his support. And it grappled with the big questions. Why am I here? Who is God to me? Who is my creator? Did he mean me to be here for a particular reason, and why? And what am I going to do with this time that I have? And how do I raise kids in this? So those were questions that book answered. And then I wanted to do fiction, because fiction allows you to kind of explore what's personal to you. And Aram, Ishtar, and Neb were historical fiction. And I originally wrote them that way because I thought that was the only way I could write. But he battled the cancer for 4 years, and then he passed away when the youngest was only just turned 5. The oldest was 17. And I realized after a bit, dealing with everything, I still wanted to write. I still needed to write, but I needed to be better at writing. And so I went and got a degree from Full Sail University on writing for entertainment. And I got into the sci-fi genre. And I realized, again, it was, I think, the partially realizing how big God is through that journey that we had just gone through. Even though I live in a small community here, people came from everywhere to do whatever they could. People who were of our faith, people who were of no faith. And I think my understanding of who God is got bigger and bigger and bigger. And so the sci-fi fit with that. So I rewrote the original 3-4 books and Melchior and the 5th book. And so they all have taken on new dimensions with the sci-fi elements. And I created a sci-fi world in the following books.
Yeah, an author may start writing with an intent and a particular character in mind, or kind of in search at something, but at some point the story takes over completely and you become the follower rather than the writer. How much of that has happened for you along the way?
Very much so, because again, with the historical fiction in Aram, Ishtar, Neb, and Georgios, well, the first three were really dealing with good and evil images. I had dealt with a lot of that in my childhood. I worked as a volunteer in South Chicago. I worked in Peace Corps in the Philippines. I worked in a kind of a tough neighborhood in Los Angeles. So the concept of good and evil and what can happen to people when they allow evil into their lives, or when evil just comes and takes over. How we deal with that, how we fight against the evil surrounding us, sometimes feeling like it's overwhelming us. Those were the cornerstone thoughts of my original books. But then as I widened out for the following New Earth series, and after John passed, it also became the image for Giorgio's story was, who is my father? For my children, that was a big question. Who is my father now? And how do we become fathers? How do we become mothers? Even if the biological father or mother is not there. What is fatherhood and what is motherhood? And it widened out because people play roles. My sons have played father roles, even though they're big brothers. Friends and neighbors have played super roles that is bigger than the titles of friend or neighbor. And I think we need to, and as a single mom, am I more than just a mom? Can I play both roles? So those titles and those roles got explored more as I rewrote those stories and as I went on. The story of Melchior, the 5th book in the series, he's dealing with, it's 5th century Britain. The Romans have left. He is trying to hold his family together as a widower. And the king wants to marry his daughter, but he despises the king. His son is accused of murder, but he doesn't think his son did it, but he's not sure because his son is very impetuous. There's a lot going wrong, but he's trusting in his innate faithfulness to this God that he loves, but he doesn't understand. And in the innate goodness of his children. He knows it's there, but he doesn't know where the edges are, and whether they would fall into evil too. So
there's so much there that I want to pick on here that dive right into is good and evil. Everybody has a potential to be both, or to submit to one over the other. Heaven and earth. It is our journey here on earth. It can be absolute hell, or it can be heavenly. Again, our choice and how we proceed through life, and in which consciousness do we do it? Do we step into the consciousness of kindness, caringness, lovingness, or do we step into revenge, greed, opulence, power, which only leads, down one road? And it is at the cost of the soul. People who are in extreme powers, we see evident right now in the world, their power is to kill and to maim, to hold their power. That is not God's love. And I think when we look at God, as you mentioned, is God a man or not a man? Is it a force? I think we are all God. We are all made of God. We're all made of that consciousness. It's a question of us, do we step into God's grace and be that grace here on earth? Or do we give into the devil's side of it, which very often could be enticing or easier, or express the anger more, because sometimes it can take more energy to be loving. But then when you're in that state of love, especially God's love, whatever faith you are, or whether it's God, universal spirit, whatever that divine essence is for you, when we step into that energy of that love, we are all a part of that energy. We are all part of that God. And there aren't only the distinctions of you are this and you are that. You are of one. And when we talk about unity and being of one, it is of that consciousness, isn't it? That love consciousness.
Right. I mean, there's 2 points you've made that are exactly what my books are about. The grace of God is literally the life of God, the life of God in our souls. We were created in his image for his purpose. And because we don't know the edges of God, that we were created for a particular good that only we can do. And as you're saying, it is so evident that the closer you grow in that relationship with your creator, with the God being, the closer you get to all of humanity.
Yes.
And the closer you get to the good of humanity, the closer you get to God.
Yes.
So that is a major theme in my stories, because the characters, when they fall into evil, when they fall into brokenness, They literally are breaking with themselves.
Yes.
They are breaking the best of themselves and falling apart. That our human expressions are very relevant and very revealing. When we fall apart, we're falling apart internally, mentally, emotionally. And isolation can do that. Despair will encourage that because they're destructive and corruptive. I think that's what you're talking about, the people of power. Power is an illusion.
Yes.
It is very much an illusion that we are our own God, in that we own everything is something for us to shape. In fact, there is a sublimeness of humility and servantness and stewardship that allows us to truly join in the human race. That's why the old Earth series and the newer series blend so well, because we're not alone.
No.
And what we do to each other affects everyone. Even when the most villainous person on Earth dies, I do not celebrate. It is a tragedy for all of us when one of us falls. So when any of us succeed in a good deed, it brings all of us up. So there is that connectedness that I think sometimes we get caught up in our own little worlds and we think, well, I'm helpless. I can't do anything. But everything we do, if I'm making dinner for the kids or out taking a romp with the puppy, those actions in the spirit that I do it makes all the difference. Not only to whether I have a good day or a bad day, but you can tell, you can infect people's day with positiveness, or just take people into dark territory.
Right.
And it really depends upon your headspace and your heart space.
Very much so. And the resonance of what you are will precede you. Right.
Yes.
So, and that there's nothing to say, having a down day, that's the time that it's an invitation for someone to put their arms around you, to lift you up. One of the issues we have with very strong people is they feel they need to be strong all the time, and that they cannot fall for letting other people down. But one of the beautiful things about a gift, and it's a lesson that I had to learn, is to receive gracefully. Right? To allow people to be there for you. It is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of grace, and allowing other people to step into their beautiful essence of sharing and caring. To deny them that and say, no, I can handle it all on my own, is really a slap in the face.
Yes. And actually, I have two books that are after the Road Goes Ever On. I have two books called My Road Goes Ever On. One is a Spiritual Being Human Journey, and the other is A Timeless Journey. And basically they are weekly blogs that I would put out every Friday about this journey that I've been going on for 8 years, raising these kids. And, I would wake at night going, I can't do this. I cannot do this. This is impossible. How am I going to get them into college? How am I going to get them through driver's ed? How am I going to do with wisdom teeth? How am I going to do with sickness? It's add in all of the things that happen in this life. And I'm only one person, and I never expected to be doing this by myself, ever. And I didn't expect to have 8 kids, honestly. I mean, that was like, wow, this, and I loved it. But it wasn't like it had ever been on my radar that was what I was going to do. I was a perpetual volunteer. I was going to go out and, do my thing. So being a, homemaker was totally new territory for me. I had to learn to cook. I had to learn to do everything on my own, and then without John. But the grace is exactly what you say, is allowing other people to teach me. Neighbors who came in and taught me how to can, friends who came and shared how to garden, people who we raised chickens. The kids, they have become the people who go out now to others. Because they have learned it from me. We were just talking today about a farmer friend of ours who has become a mentor to one of my sons. I would not have seen that coming, but he became that person because he needed William's help. and then he was able to give to William. So it's a very symbiotic.
Yes.
The more you grace others, the more others can grace you.
Right. And the more that grace exudes out, community.
Right.
It is people coming together as a unity, not to abstain from who they are, what they are, and what their gift is to each other, but to bring to the feast of the table,
Yes.
and for everyone to partake, because that's what community is about. To know that you can pick up the phone and say, George, I need help, and somebody call you, I need help, and that's the point, is being there for each other. And that's something we've forgotten in today's society. And when you do read things like Lord of the Rings, and I'm sure with your books as well, there are times it's a solo journey. You need to take this on your own. It's your discovery. And there are times where you need to be with someone. And you're there for each other. And the strength is only in the togetherness.
Right. And one of the things I've discovered through the characters and through life is that where it hurts most is where you're going to grow most.
Yes.
And so it is ironic, because I kept thinking, oh, I'm going to need this, or I'm going to need that. And in fact, it was always home based. God kept, pushing me back. Stay where you are and use who and what I've given you. Those are the tools you need. And I can't tell you how many times I gave up. I can't tell you how many times I quit writing. I can't tell you how many times I thought, I cannot do this. Or I fell into my own brokenness, where you just feel so depressed and you just think, there's been so many failures in the public spectrum. There's been so many sad events. And, you think, what am I doing raising kids in a world like this?
Yeah.
But then when you take some time, tiredness, not eating, very commonsensical things, not eating right, not getting enough sleep. And sometimes you do. I need to go out in nature, look at a tree and tell it my woes and just get over myself, get over it,
spend the emotion, right?
Yes,
you need to spend the emotion
and give it out and say, here, I can't, and that you can't fix everything.
Yeah.
I've had
nor are you meant to.
Right. And really knowing that death happens, and having hope anyways.
Right.
Believing in something beyond what our sight can see. Because isn't that been the human journey that if you told Laura Inga Wilders that we would have cell phones, she would not have comprehended it.
Right.
So that you and I would be talking right now, she would not have comprehended it. There are so many things we have yet to experience, but they are there for us if we are open to the fact that there's a lot more to this world than we control. And to be okay with the fact that we're not controlling all of it. And sometimes we are going to fail because somebody else needs to do that part.
But is it failure? Or is it just a question of, that is not for you to do?
Right.
For me, I always look at failure is when you land on your backside and refuse to get back up.
Exactly.
It's the getting back up, wobbly legs, feeling you've been punched in the gut and going, okay, all right, I did that wrong. I'm going to try again in a different direction.
Exactly. And I think that is the ultimate. And I think that's what the characters learn in different ways.
Yeah.
Some fail because they fall into a complete denial of the greater good, and people do die tragic death. I've seen it. I've seen some really, really tragic drug addiction, alcoholism, things that have just led people down a terrible path. And they die that way. And you're just stunned because of the grief of it all.
Right.
But even then, you have an option. You have free will to let that take you down under the water or to walk on water. And to say, I don't understand all of it, but I'm going to get, like you said, I'm going to get on my knees, wobbly legs and all, and I'm going to try again, whatever it is. It's imperfect. My books are not perfect, but
if you strive for perfection, you'd miss the point.
Right. And
Right, because
and
they're striving for perfection all the time, or writing, to appeal to a big audience, as opposed to being immersed in the story. What does the story mean to me? Am I on this exploration of this story? What have I discovered about me? And when you write from that perspective, the discovery you make yourself, you know that the reader is going to make their own discoveries paralleled with their own journey in life. And people are too much today of trying to put something out for the broad audience and paint it with one nice big brush, hoping to be generic and hit everyone, instead of coming from the gut and the heart and the soul of it, where somebody reading it is going to get what they need to get out of it for where they are right now.
You're absolutely on target. That's everything I've experienced. I mean, the sad thing is, I think we do tend to look at market, we look at sales, we look at likes, or whatever radar you want to look at in terms of how do I know if I'm doing a good job. The fact of the matter is, for me, I've had to admit over and over and over again, I write because I want to,
right?
Because I get something from it, because I believe in the craft, because I believe in the beauty of a soul conversing with another soul. And that's what the best reviews I've gotten have been from people saying, I don't feel so alone now.
Yes.
Because they recognize that I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say that this life journey is easy, or that we have all of the answers, or that you can punch through it and be successful and make money, or any of that. It depends upon what your goal is. For me, my goal is to be the best human being I can be, to use the gifts.
Yes.
One of the ironic things was, after John passed, they put up a tombstone, and they have both of our names on it. And it's very, very much the Christmas Carol story, to when you go and you see your name etched in stone on a tombstone with your birth date and then a dash. I just remember thinking, I'm going to make the most of that dash.
Yes.
The space between when I was born and when I died, I am going to make the most of that. And when people say, how do you do it? I wake up and I know I have got a day, a chance. It's opportunity. Today is an opportunity, and I will never be given just this opportunity again. So make the most of it. Really love this day. Even if, you have thunderstorms and power goes out and mishaps happen, those are opportunities. Every time something bad happens, I try to think about it in terms of opportunity. What else can be coming forward from this, even if it is an act of humility?
And there's always a gift in everything. Power goes out, everybody snuggles around the fire. Maybe they would all be dispersed, if the power was on. So there's always something to have. It might just be that complete moment of silence with yourself, which not enough people do. I say there's in the silence you begin to hear. That's when you really start to understand, but we don't allow ourselves those moments of silence. For me, when I was in my transition of life for some 22 years ago, actually more, 95 it started, metaphysical books for me were the way to go completely. All of the story type thing like you were writing, the Lord of the Rings, the Hobbits, the Harry Potters, and many other stories, the Northern Lights, all of that, because in it I felt more attached to the other world than I did this. And in understanding I am really from that world, just trying to exist and find a purpose in this world gave me more of a routing in which to step forward in, instead of feeling so out of sync in this world. And especially as an empath, feeling all the pain and the anguish with what people do to each other. Coming from the other world, it's like, well, what can I do about it? And even if it's just my vibration of loving light going out, being sent out to other people, it all adds up, right? It all adds up. If we can change the frequency, the vibration, the beat of people's anguish, then we would change people towards lighter music, a lighter sound where they can truly hear their inner God, their inner essence, and understand who they are, why they are, and what they're here for. Because it's all about discovering our meaningful purpose, isn't it?
Right. And I totally agree. I mean, I don't know how many times John, my husband, used to say we're exiles, strangers in a strange land. And my kids have felt very much the same thing, partly because we're such a close-knit family. And that's unusual. We're a large family. That's unusual these days. We're all my kids are big readers, and they'll joke because they can quote something at length and then somebody else can finish the quote. That's unusual kind of behavior. That's their fun is reading together, sharing stories together, history. They understand history together. So I do think that we have the ability to, even as exiles, maybe because we are exiles, is to understand our place. I think that comfort zone of knowing this isn't all there is.
Yes.
When you finally begin to understand that, and you're not placing all your hopes in the logic and reason of an irrational world, you begin to find compassion and peace with the people who are struggling with addictions, with people who are struggling with family matters, people who are struggling with choices. It's not a judgment. No. You can back off the judgments because you're not going to fix the world. You know that. I mean, when I've traveled and seen other places, and oh my gosh, there are people who are suffering unspeakable sufferings. And yet, for maybe a few minutes, they can talk to you and laugh about something.
Yes.
Or maybe they can just be heard. Or maybe you can just do one simple thing and it'll make all the difference. There have been so many times when I want a big fix and all that person was looking for was some simple thing that I could do. Just be that one piece in a big puzzle, and that's all. That just made them so happy. So you don't know, we don't. I think we tend to think in this country, especially, of grandiose plans.
Yes.
We want to build the biggest and the best, and I think that's why we get these huge things. If we just had a bigger, better, but really, it's in small. I found that out over and over again. It's the little things that make people's day. It's a smile. It's when somebody's here working and I say, hey, have a great day. Or if you need, something, a cold glass of water, little things, people feel like they're seen, valued.
That is so big. I mean, there's a couple of videos that I'm reminded of. One was a guy giving somebody some money for food, and he said, would you do me a favor? And he said, would you go and buy it for me? And he said, certainly. What would he like? He said, I'd like you to buy for you too. Would you sit and eat with me? And exactly. He said, and it is it's not just the food I'm hungry for. I'm hungry for the conversation. I'm hungry for the companionship. And we forget about that. We're so busy of just striving, for the day to day, that we forget about all the other things that truly are the substance of life, that connectiveness, that not feeling alone, that knowing you can have a conversation with someone. I mean, this is something that obviously the pandemic has very much done by isolating people, has really shown them where the true enrichment is. And it's in that conversation, it's in holding someone in your arms. It's in the simple things, because everybody was forced to take a pause for a while and stop rushing and chasing this dream. Well, if you're so busy chasing a dream, it's going to become a nightmare. The true enrichment of life is in the abundance of the small things in life.
The present time, that's the thing. We tend to forfeit exactly who we are and where we are and what we have. The present, which is the presence.
Yes,
the biggest
gift of the present.
Ever had. Yes, the gift of the presence. And I think that comes from, when I look at it, even in my own life. I mean, I'm a to-do list person in order to get things
with 8
done.
kids, you're going to keep yourself on track.
to-do lists who have to-do lists, but I've learned to make it a priority list.
Right.
My to-do list this morning, I got up, I had a to-do list, and very few things went according to plan. That's okay with me, because as long as I keep people first,
Yeah.
Everything else will fall into place. My priorities are the people first. If somebody needs to talk to me, or we need to have a conversation about something, or they came up with a snafu, we're getting a solar panels put in.
Wow.
And the power company had a snafu issue. And they were like, oh, everybody was worried. I said, hey, this is just an opportunity to do it better. We're just going to do it better. And I think they were all relieved that I wasn't upset because we're going to have to take time out. I said, you guys are doing great work, and to know that they're doing great work, that I appreciate their great work, that the snafu isn't the point. We plan things and we think the plan is the point. The plan isn't the point. We don't plan. I didn't plan to have 8 kids. I didn't plan to live out in the country. I didn't plan any of this. But being open to the grace of opportunities, that has flowered. That has brought me abundance. You dream in your mind about things, and like you said, they can turn into the nightmares.
Yes.
But if you allow the present moment to gift you with whatever is in your midst, whoever is in your midst, you just, there's happiness. There's joy, there's contentment in just being present to the moment.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I call it the knowingness, knowing what you need to know when you need to know it. And that is allowing that divine knowledge, the divine wisdom to resonate in your heart truth, to go into your spirit action and your mind to know what it needs to know in that moment that it needs to know it. And if we trust it more, because we've got such an emphasis on knowledge, and the knowledge can be kind of pushback because, okay, you've got this knowledge, but if you don't have the wisdom to know how to use the knowledge, the knowledge could be something that can push against you rather than for you. And if the heart and the soul and the spirit aren't attached to that knowledge, then therefore you may use it in the wrong way. And I think what we're seeing in so many ways of so many people, the people that are the power hungry are generally the emptiest people. They're empty. They're empty of love. They are small children desperately needing to be loved. Someone just to hold them and say, I care. And in chasing the power, if I have the power, if I have it all, screw you type of thing. And the only person they're really hurting is themselves and anybody else that becomes victim to them. We owe it to ourselves. It doesn't matter what has happened to us. We can look at what has happened for us and what am I going to do about it. I have done shows of people who have had things happen to them that you would not blame it if they cashed out, because the things that have happened to them are horrific. As children, as adults, or wherever they are in life, and yet they chose now, after going through their own process of their own healing, to be there for others. And that, I think, is the ultimate purpose and the ultimate gift that you can give someone.
Right. Absolutely. And I do think and this is one of the themes that comes through in my books, and my story, Last of Her Kind, which is kind of the fulcrum book between the Old Earth and the New Earth stories, is basically a story where she is the last one to have a child as a human race. And so they end up with the New Earth world, with an alien society coming in. They do end up, having a new Earth with the human race continuing. But it's the struggle, I think, sometimes the fruitfulness of what we think, what we plan, what we intend, it actually curtails true fruitfulness. It actually destroys and corrupts true fruitfulness.
Yes.
And so that aspect, what I would call almost to the level of demonic evil, is where the further we get from what you call the divine essence, the further it's like we cease to be able to think clearly or see clearly.
We're no longer the being, we're a humanoid.
Right.
Because so busy robotically chasing something, we've lost our humanity, the beingness of who we are.
Exactly. And in that loss, in that vacuum of what we should be, what we're intended to be, horrible choices get made. And it's grievous.
Yes.
And I would never, discount the horror of what people have endured. But what you just talked about, that free choice,
Yes.
still remains. And you'll see it in people who have gone through just the Auschwitz of the world.
Yeah.
They have made free choices not to give in and not to give way to their own inner demons, and to love anyway, to care anyway, to, even if you're flat on the ground, to say, do with me whatever positive good can be done with all of this.
Right.
And it's absolutely astonishing how that contrition of, I am broken, put me back together as you need to, empowers people to do things you would never have thought possible. Because it becomes a superpower, truly, a supernatural power.
You're reconfigured in a way you are truly meant to be.
Right.
And that is the beauty of it. I mean, I literally had a woman on a few weeks ago, Victoria, whose husband had beaten her up over 300 times, and she literally had metal plates in her face, in her hands, and her legs, and eardrums and everything. And she's paralyzed down one side. She's, discontorted now. And yet she has started this whole contagious smile program, in being there for others who've gone through it. And she never got justice because the military protected him. And, we do need to hold accountable.
Yes.
And we are not condoning.
Right.
But if we do not forgive or release, we go down the rabbit hole of wanting revenge.
Right.
And that revenge eats you up, it reconfigures you in a way you don't want to be put together.
You become the enemy.
Yeah, you become it. And so the reconfiguration, and this is something, again, take away the illusionment of what society dictates you should be. Right? Put that aside. That is marketing. When you take it right down and look at it, it's some product trying to be sold, and they're telling you, you need this to become that, to look like that, to be loved like this. And when you choose to just take the one foot in front of the other and participate in your life, it knocks you down, learn a new way of getting back up. What are you meant to do now? Whom you meant to help along the way? What are you meant to learn on your journey? And then as you get to the end of each of your own chapters, and you look back and go, my God, look at how far I've become. I have come, and look at what I am armed with to go forward.
Exactly. And that's what I think. I forget who it is. It might have been Chesterton. It might have been C.S. Lewis. One of them said in one of their writings that it was talking about like a saint in hell or somebody in hell, and saying they didn't dare to dream big enough. That when we fall into despair, when we fall into corruption and, despondency, well, they deserve it, or the world deserves it. It did this to me. It's because we didn't dare to dream big enough about the supernatural realities. I mean, when I look at my 4.5 acres, and I have gardens, and I have these, chickens and puppies and kittens and kids, and it is a garden of, and people who come here are like, wow, this is really beautiful plants, and it is a beautiful place. It's not just because we worked hard. It is that we couldn't have dreamed this big enough. It's been bigger than we thought.
You allowed it to be.
Yes.
You allowed it to reveal itself instead of dictating. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think we don't dare to dream big enough. We think, well, if you're poor and your life is like this, that it's going to go down this trajectory.
Right.
Dream big and don't decide what it has to look like.
Right. Yes.
Because you might find out that that door that shut just opened a window to something you didn't expect that's far, far better. And that's happened to me repeatedly, where I was, I didn't get this and I thought I was going to do that. Just didn't go down that path. I wanted a publisher and I wanted this. And yet I have learned so much more from the people that I have met, very serendipitously,
Yes.
I'd say. Those were the people I really needed. Those were the people who were willing to teach me to do my job, to make my craft work, and to reflect my true journey. Like you said, I'm not just writing cookie cutter stories. This is something that comes from the humus of true struggle and true, you could even say what I would call falling on my knees and getting back up again, as you said.
Yeah. And it's only, I think, through that. I mean, this is what I believe we're here for on Earth as human beings. To really experience what the spirit is like in a body, the touch, the taste, the being able to hold, being able to submerge. The spirit can feel certain things, but not that human. Spirit touch, right? That sensory that is so utterly beautiful. And that is the gift that was given to us as human beings, to experience that beautiful sensory, and to be a part of this world, this gorgeous planet that has absolutely everything for us, that is absolutely extraordinary and so self-reliant until we came along. And that if we pay attention to what is around us, we discover what is within us. And we discovered so much more of what we are meant to be and who we're meant to be and why we're meant to be here. And then vibrationally, we attract the same frequency people around us, and we kind of create our own orchestra. My other shows are called The Orchard of Wisdom, because it's ready for picking or clicking, partaking of the fruit of the wisdom. We learn from each other, and the more the struggle you've had, and some people, they didn't in this lifetime, they rewarded without the struggle, but the journey was to remember no struggle doesn't mean you take entitlement, right? It means that you can truly step in to heart and love purpose without so many obstacles in the way that others have had to have. So, but it's all about life's lessons, isn't it? And why we're here, what we're here to do. And when we ascend at the end, of where is our spirit now? We're so much more courageous. We're so much more stronger than we think. We are so much more resilient. We have so many more abilities than we've ever been told we have. And the only way you discover them is through the struggle of life.
Right, exactly. And actually, one of the characters I think you would enjoy is Cerulean. He's the Laxonian who is a guardian in Last of Her Kind. And that's they're light beings. But he can put himself into a human form. And that's one of the journeys he goes through, is all of these sensations that humans have. And he falls in love with that. He's like, you have pain, but you have this and you have this. And the story is not just about the main character, the human side, and that's what I like about science fiction, is you can get up really, really high and look at what would it be like if we didn't have a human body? How would it feel? How would it be for us to truly understand each other? There is significant communicating going on between us because of facial expression and smell and taste and touch and the interactions of our bodies. And because you think, well, why did God create these bodies? Why were we given these bodies when there's so much pain and suffering with them? Well, because there is a purpose. There is a greater purpose. And that's what was fun. That character, I did not expect that side of it, but he ends up becoming, for a temporary period of time, experiencing humanity as a man and what that's like for him. And then having to own his own place in his own world. That, sometimes we lust or we want what someone else has. And we
Yes.
think, if only I were that, if
Yeah.
only I could have this, I would be happy. But the fact is that we are given what we're given for a reason, and we take all of the trials and tribulations and the weaknesses and the whatever's haunting us in our world is going to haunt us wherever we go. So
Well,
we
yeah,
need to
we
deal with
can't
it.
we can't outrun ourselves, can we?
We can't.
There is no
yes,
escape. You have to
exactly.
face it.
So
Yeah.
we can pretend, we
Mm.
can try to run away, you can travel, you can run as fast as you can, but the fact of the matter is, like I said, the biggest growth for me has come from where it hurts the most.
Yeah.
And that's where I've also found the greatest strength and the greatest. I never learned courage until I was truly afraid. I never learned what true love looked like until I knew what sacrifice felt like. So that's how those gifts work, is they're kind of ironic in a sort of way.
Yeah. Everybody I've ever interviewed that has gone through such excruciating pain and come out the other side has said they would never change anything.
Mm-hmm.
Because who they are today, what they're doing today, they wouldn't be that person without that
Mm-hmm.
journey.
Right.
And, do we wish that this person could be with us, or that we'd come into it sooner? Or,
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's those things, but you can't change what has. You
Mm-hmm.
can only accept what is. And I say, paint the canvas of what you would like it to be. The picture will
Right.
reveal itself. Right.
Right. Right.
You talked about this beautiful entity of stepping into a human body. I know, and none of us really are from here, but I know I have the memory of coming here right at the beginning. My job was always to be a soul awakener, always to have the humans connect to the divine spirit, not a religion, not a God per se, but the channeling of the energy and of the wisdom. It's been what I've done always here, and had many lifetimes of persecution because of it. And this lifetime was a new awakening for me, to come out of the persecution and to step into it with permission, in a sense, because the more of what you're writing about and the more of what we're speaking about now is becoming more mainstream. And not so,
It's interesting because I grew up in the house I grew up with. My parents had separated. My mom, they divorced. She started renting rooms to foreign students. So I grew up with people from literally all over the world, people from Taiwan, Singapore, China, Japan, Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, everywhere, all across the globe. And they were, we'd eat dinner together. They'd be cooking in the kitchen together. They'd be going off to class, and I'd be going off to class. And sometimes we'd meet and have tea together. And we do a few things together. Go out in the backyard and enjoy the sun and have a chat. And very few of us had anything similar in terms of religion or background. Right. But they were some of the most noble spirits I have ever known. As a matter of fact, my character Bala in the newer series is based upon a man named Bala, who was an Indian man who was very spiritual. I think he became Hindu. I think he was kind of searching. But I mean, all across the board, their religious spirituality was only kind of the label that they needed to kind of hang their spiritual hook.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that I don't believe that religion doesn't have a part to play. I think humanity needs a sense of religion. We need some place to put our hat, to give ourselves a sense of identity. But we're opening up, because of this global interaction, toward a much fuller sense of who we are spiritually and connected to each other spiritually.
But the religions are also changing.
Right.
Some are realizing that the rigidity of what the religion is, and more as people are on their own spiritual journey and now bringing that understanding of those teachings back, it is broadening, the spirit of the religion. Some religions, of course, are in, as we are seeing in many cases, the wanting to go backwards in time. and take things back to a time of no free will,
Right.
and of complete control and hell and damnation. And, you know,
Right.
those are the people that know that the times are changing. Life is changing, and they're too scared to change with it. So they're wanting to hold on to the past. And
Well, I mean, I
we know
think
resistance is futile, because, you know, the change is already happening. You can't stop it now.
right. And I mean, isn't that the story of humanity? That's
Yeah.
what the whole story of the Aram story, in trying to come to some comprehension of, is there a God, and who is he, and what does he have to do with me, and how do I fit into all of this?
Right.
It is a constant exploration, and every religion rises, and then human beings try to kind of straitjacket it, because we need to pigeonhole God. We need to put God in a box that we can contain, because then we feel safer if we have God in this little box. And that is the detriment of our spiritual growth, because we end up basically cutting ourselves off,
Right, restricting
from the greater good,
like
because
corseting. I can't breathe. Yeah.
Right, right. And it is sad, because we're afraid of it.
Yeah.
And I think what you're seeing now is people seeing violence and horror and things they're legitimately and honestly afraid of. And for a while that did concern me, but I have a very compassionate sense of both sides. There's the extreme of, anything goes. I can do anything I want, and that can involve hurting an awful lot of people.
Yes,
because I have
exactly.
the power to do it. Versus, no, you can't do anything, because you're going to go to hell if you break this rule. Those two extremes are basically just the same side of that coin of, I'm telling God what he looks like. I'm telling everyone where the borders and the edges are. And that's what writing helps to open that, break that up for us, and say, you know what? This is a lot bigger. The universe is a lot bigger. Everything we learn keeps hammering the point to us that the more we know, the less we know.
Right.
We don't really know. We don't know an awful lot. And I'm not saying I don't make judgments. There are all sorts of crimes that need to be, as you said, those
accountable.
are crimes, and they should not be accepted as anything but crimes against humanity. But that doesn't mean that I suddenly control everything. And it's funny, I've had people actually persecute my books. I have a children's book, and the little girl has a skirt, and it just goes to her knees. And I've had people say, oh, that's improper, and get all upset. And I'm like, seriously, knees are a problem. But that was a problem for her, because her world had to have, people dressed.
It's your own personal restriction.
Way.
Yeah,
exactly. It was a frightening thing for her. And I understood that. I understood her, and she wanted me to change change the whole illustration of the book. And I said, no, because there's nothing wrong with a child's needs. I won't do that. So
the thing is that what we have to question is, if you can look at a child's knees and see a problem, the problem does not lie with the child. It lies with, why is it a problem for you? Right. Yeah.
Right. And so I think we can resist keeping our integrity and our compassion all at the same time.
Yeah.
We don't have to resist with fury or anger, or, like you say, vengeance, and getting mad and talking bad about them. I have no problem. There's a lovely woman who is trying very hard to do right by her family, her society, her culture, her understanding of religion. That's fine, but my books are still valuable for what they are, and those who will see it.
But that, that's the way I put out these shows. I'm constantly told, oh, you've got to be 10 minutes, or you've got to be this, you've got to be that, you've got to be that. And I said, that's the way yours can be.
Right.
Mine, I am following a format that was given to me really by the divine. Mm-hmm. And that is, allow the story to unravel. Don't you can put a certain time restriction on it, but don't restrict, don't restrain, because we want people to share their truth, and to start dictating how they share that truth is certainly, for me, against what I believe in. But it's not for everybody. So
Right.
therefore, not everyone's going to listen. It's going to
Right.
be for the people that are ready to hear,
Right.
as they are
And
ready to read, right?
right, right. And that flexibility is a beautiful thing. I've had people love aspects of my book, and then somebody else just rant and rave about the exact same piece.
Mm.
And God love them. I wish them well.
Yes.
Because
you don't
I
take
just
it
wish
on.
them both well.
Yeah, and you're going to read something, and I don't know about you, but whether you've seen something or you've read something again, and the next time round it means something totally different because of
Right.
where you are at, right?
Mhm.
And if you are in a place of pain or anguish and you're reading something that somebody's going through pain and anguish, you're going to identify with that,
Right.
right? And it's
Right.
where are you right now? And this is why sometimes it's good to revisit things in a
Right.
different perspective, from a different light, and receive different information.
Right.
I
Right.
like to just take a book sometimes and go, what do I need to know today? And just open up the book and
Yeah.
read because I know on that page is a message that I need to know today.
Right. Right.
Right?
Right.
Obviously,
And
in a storyline, you want to read the beginning to the end, but still, even once you've read the book, you can still do that, because then you
Mhm.
know the story, you know the person, because you've become entwined with the characters, and that particular page that they're going through right now may be a reflection of what you're going through. What did they do to get through it? How can you apply it in your life, right?
Yes, yes. I mean, you're not joking about that.
No.
There are times raising a family, and I've never, I've seen a lot of brokenness. I haven't seen a lot of people do it right. And I would go to fiction.
Oh, yes.
Laura Ingalls Wilder. I'm looking at, okay, and I'm reading it to my kids going, how did they handle this? How did they handle crisis? And and it's not so much that they had a, checklist where you do this and you do this. It's the spirit of the love that it pervaded those families, despite all of the hardship that they went through. So yeah, fiction, I mean, granted, it's based on her life, but I have many times quotes will come to my mind, and that will be the quote that I need to be my mantra for that day to deal with what I've got.
Yeah.
And it is a connection to something so much bigger than myself. The people I meet that day, they are the people who are going to be the people that I need to meet that day.
Exactly.
And I trust that. And I think, again, when you deal with a troubled world where some horrible things are happening, that level of trust is huge. It is what has seen me through seeing, family members die tragic death and going, they are where they need to be. And I still trust. I trust that this is not the end of the journey for them either.
No.
I trust that there's a bigger picture for them, that this is, we are immortal souls, and that
we're just living in this vessel for the experience, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And I talk to my husband every morning. Hey, John, and I don't believe the wall is so absolute that he doesn't put calmness or peace in my heart when I need it, or strength.
Right.
And I do believe we can get even people that I've never met. I swear sometimes in dreams, you get a sense of a person, and then you later meet that person. You go, I think I know you, because there's that what we think of as this fleshy barrier is not a barrier for the spirit.
No, I'm a dimensional traveler, and I'll have many experiences where I've done that before, and then I have to have a real look and go, oh, it can't be in this particular lifetime or this body's lifetime. It's happened somewhere else. And I'm very much a believer in the dimensional and parallel worlds, and I'm always traveling to them. My brother is a youth writer, and I love reading those books because he's writing it about the youth generally facing something catastrophic. He generally has obviously a love interest. He's always got an animal, a dog that he has to keep alive, right? Which is, it's always the most difficult thing sometimes, to keep the dog alive. And I love them because for me, it's a revisit. It's a revisit. And we we again categorize, well, a child would think that, or a youth would think that, or an adult would think that. If we could go back into a child or a youth's mind, or a youth go into an adult's mind, we'd broaden that understanding and that spectrum so much more. And
Yeah.
these books that dive into other worlds and other beings, so imagine though, any form of aliens looking at us right now. You want us to go down there? They can't even get on with each other. What do you think they're going to do to us?
Right.
So
right.
yeah, it's we've got a long way to go, but I think if we could only just allow ourselves to take the journey, to be immersed in the presence, to explore what's in front of us, how we feel, what opportunities are there, be willing to try, because we don't know what we can do until we try. To forgive, we never forget, and forgiving doesn't mean condoning. It just means forgiving, to release, and to shed light and love on people. Really, that's fundamentally it, isn't it?
Right. And I think that is, you've got the core of the human journey, is to become fully who we are meant to be. And however long that may take us, because I think that the saddest thing is when we don't have enough faith in that greater good. And the fact that whatever our trials are, they are the stepping stones to something better. And like you said, what is in front of us, what we're doing right now, is the gift of the moment that is taking us and shaping us and forming us. And it can be incredibly painful. And sometimes we need somebody to give us that nudge, or to give us that hand. And isn't that a blessing too? Isn't that an attitude of gratitude that takes us the next step? It's the food for the soul.
Gratitude, even for the bad things, it's what we've learned from them, who we've become because of them. And gratitude for what you've put into your books. It's come through your life's journey. It's come from your willingness to open up your own dimensions, to explore these other wonderful beings that are choosing to come through you, and sharing these stories, their essence, that now opens up other people's, not just imaginations, but perspectives, and take away the blinkers and just broaden that spectrum of what else is out there, what is possible. Because I believe anything is possible. Anything is possible. It's a question of, what do we feed?
Right. And I sometimes get the feeling, and I've seen this, and I've done it myself, where you think, I've had it worse than anybody. You know, my journey is so hard, or nobody understands me and my particular pain. And to get outside that is the biggest relief you can do. It's a big favor you can do for yourself. Is to stop being myopic and self-centered in the think that, that I've had it worse. I've had some tough things, but I know there's tough things plus, there's always one more bad thing that could happen. And to stop focusing on that, to stop taking yourself. Sometimes it means stop listening to music that takes you down, stop eating junk food, stop watching the programs that are just full of violence that just make you feel like, because it affects. I'm reading a book called Your Brain on Music, and you can write your brain on Twitter, your brain on Facebook, your brain on whatever. We do wire our own brains for the day according to what we're feeding our brains and our souls and our minds, not just physically the food, but the sound patterns, the reading that we're reading, what we're and we're saying something to ourselves if we are giving ourselves terrible food. We're just eating horrible stuff, and we're saying we're not worth it. We're not worth fresh vegetables. We're not worth that little. What would it cost to eat something just a little bit better grade? Or what would it be to step outside that whatever's going on in the social media frenzy, and to, you don't need to know every bad headline. That was one of the things I did, was for a time, and I know it was a good thing, a couple of years ago, right before the pandemic, I actually disconnected for a period of time. It was
Yes.
the best thing I did. And even though I was isolated in the sense I didn't follow everything, I had time with nature.
Mm.
And nature could feed me in a way that the online couldn't. And it gave me time to think about, just kneading bread, making homemade bread, learn how to do a few recipes, and take the time to slow down and do a few good things slowly.
Yes.
It was
Be
like being
present,
born
right?
again. I
Be
mean, it
present.
was like being on a holiday,
Yeah, exactly.
getting away from the traffic in the head and the headspace
Yes.
and the noise out there and the swearing and the anger and the blaming and the I hate this person and what I hate that and all of the accusations. Get away from it for a while. Give yourself some space. Detox.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
allow yourself some freedom. And then, give yourself permission to feed yourself some decent food. It doesn't have to be expensive,
No.
but something healthy and
Veggies, folks,
wholesome.
veggies. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know,
Healthy and
it's also
wholesome.
in for me, music is a huge one for me, but also, in reading a good book, I'm stepping
Mhm.
away from me, and a different part
Mhm.
of me is traveling in the book, and I can come
Right.
out of it feeling reset.
Right.
And then
Right.
that's the thing, is that we're so busy looking for instant, that take the time to read the
Mhm.
book, to curl up somewhere, to sit outside, to do whatever you need to do, and to take that book in and let it transport you to where it needs to take you. You will come
Right.
back a different person.
Right. And that we tend to be, I think in this country, I know the Filipinos would joke around that Americans tend to do everything at top speed.
Yes.
And I realized that I spoke too fast. I did everything
Yeah.
fast. That was the way I was raised, was to do everything fast because I was very efficient. Somebody needed to get things done. Well, I
Yes.
was going to be that person, that A personality who's going to get everything done as perfectly as possible. And like you said, to take it slow. I'm rereading The Lord of the Rings, and I'll read whole pages twice just to savor it.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason to hurry.
Right.
I realize there are lots and lots of books, and I can pick the ones I want to really savor and enjoy them and set it up. Maybe I just go out on the back porch with a cup of water or a cup of cold tea or whatever. It's simple. Does not have to be expensive.
No.
It could be a tiny little thing, a piece of toast and a cup of tea and a book and just in a bit of sunshine. And I've done that in the city. I've done it in the country. A tiny bit of something good and to savor it, to take the time to see it and appreciate it and to revel in it, to allow it to feed you.
Yeah.
That's what we're not doing. I think that's why so many people are depressed and starving, why there's such suicide.
Yes.
And it's because people feel like they have no options anymore. And they did.
And they do.
Hope.
And it's just a question of slow down and pay attention and redivert your mind. I have a 13-month-old grandson, and if you don't want him to do something, you can do a certain amount of stern look and he'll try again. Well, redivert, put him in something else and he'll forget. So this is what our mind needs sometimes. Pick up a book, redivert that mind, and just, it's a refreshing thing of resetting you, and you can go back to it. Having said that, how do people get hold of you, and how do they get hold of your books?
Well, all my books are available on Amazon. So AK Frailey, and I have an author page.
Can you spell
there.
the Frailey, please, love, for people who are just listening?
Frailey, Frailey. And I have a website, akfrailey.com. And all my books are there and links are all there. And I have a free blog on Fridays, free short stories, poems, reflections that are there every Friday. I post. So, and I have readers from all over the world. So come and enjoy and be a part of it.
Yes. and even the discussion. I know you're on Facebook, Anne K. Frailey, you're on Twitter, but it's AK Frailey, FRAILEY.com. Come and be a part of it. And don't think that because you're an adult, oh, I can't read that stuff. Balderdash, the reason why it's such a $1 trillion movie is because people are hungry for it. And, to read something that is ultra-dimensional, that really has no borders. We can have boundaries in life, but no borders. And it allows the different worlds to come in together and discover something about yourself while you're reading it. It's extraordinary. It's wonderful. And, I always recommend book clubs. Get a few of you to read it and then share, because each person will have a different perspective, and it just opens up the world even more. And
Absolutely.
so, I have your teenagers read it while you read it, and they're going to have a different perspective altogether than you are, and how exciting that could be. So, go down that road, but please slow down, read a good book. Take your life one step at a time and enjoy the reason why you're here, right?
Right. And be invigorated to go on the next day.
Exactly. Thank you so much for sharing here today. We could carry on talking. That all good things have to come to an end at some point, or a pause, because I'll have you back again. And I see a beautiful pooch in the background. He says, are we over now? Does this mean we can go out and play?
She's, again, a gift from God. She came from a library of all places.
Oh, my goodness. Well, how appropriate.
Thank you so much for having me. I've appreciated this.
Oh, my pleasure, most certainly. And folks, please reach out. OldEarth Melchior Encounter, all of the books that she has got, so many on Amazon and so many different topics. Just as I say, you can go to Amazon and just put in her name, AK Frailey, and you'll see a whole book line up there. And just start picking them up and diving into them and see where they take you, because life is to be explored. It's never what it is in the moment. If you're willing to put the one foot in front of the other and explore it through books, through life experience, you're going to discover what it really is meant to be for you. So until next time, folks, bye for now.
We hope that you enjoyed the show. Find all of our shows on selfdiscoverymedia.com under podcasts or selfdiscoverymedia/shows. And for all our current shows, go to What's New. We are supported by you, the audience. You'll see a nice big shiny blue button for one-time donations, or follow us on Patreon and you will be able to support us there. We enjoy bringing you such wisdom. And the next show will be up in just a moment.